Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. I'm going to ask Sydney to pray for us here in just a second tonight. But of course, remember we have a lot of folks who are sick, a lot of folks struggling out there. Remember all those. And of course, before we pray tonight, we had, as I'm sure most of you know, we had an officer to lose his life here in Union County a couple days ago. And that officer, his name is Matthew Kierman. I believe I'm saying that correctly. If I'm saying that wrong, I do apologize. But before we pray tonight, let's have a moment of silence in honor of this officer, his family, and the Sheriff's Department, if you would, please. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And before we pray, does any other commissioner have anything they'd like to add? Not Sydney, would you lead us, please?
Yes, let us pray. Our kind and gracious Heavenly Father, it's again, Lord, we come to you. God, we thank you, Lord, for the opportunity, Lord, that you've laid before us. God, we thank you, Lord, for letting us live to see another day. God, for mercy and grace, Lord, that you have extended unto us. God, we thank you most of all for salvation. God, we thank you, Lord, not only that we might have eternal life, but we might have it more abundantly. We thank you, Lord, for sending your only begotten Son, that, again, that we might not have life in this life only, but that is to come. God, as we come before you tonight, God, we have a heavy heart. We ask you, Lord, to remember the lost first and foremost. We ask you, Lord, to help each and every one of us that are saved, Lord, to be a light, Lord, and to be a help. God, we pray, Lord, for the sick and afflicted across our land and country. We have many tonight, Father, Lord, with ailments and infirmities in this flesh, Lord, that only you can touch. God, we pray, Lord, tonight for the homes where death has come. We pray, Lord, for the family, Lord, the officer, Lord, that we lost this week. We pray, Lord, for our Sheriff's Department and all of those that were waiting. We pray, Lord, for peace and comfort in the time of sorrow and grief. God, I pray tonight, Lord, as we come before you, Lord, that you would help each and every one of us, Lord, and give us the knowledge and wisdom and understanding, Lord, to make the decisions properly, that will be in accordance to your will and your riches and glory, Lord, that it might be the benefit of the people of this county. God, we pray, Lord, tonight for our country, God, and our leaders, Lord, that are in power and position. We pray, Lord, that you would give them that they stand in need of. God, I pray, Lord, for forgiveness, Lord, not only of our sins and our shortcomings, but of all, Lord, that we call upon your name. God, we pray again, Lord, for leadership and guidance. God, and I pray, Lord, for blessings upon each one that's represented here. We pray, Lord, for blessings upon our county and our country. Father, Lord, we pray in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, Sydney. R.L., would you lift from the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, R.L. Before we get started, Commissioners, if you have a speaker next to you, would you make sure just push down on the little red button until it turns green, if you would, please. Make sure we have all the speakers on. Thank you very much. And Commissioners, if you'll go ahead and log in, please. I'll switch over to the screen. Give me just a second. Hey Larry, will you hit your present button? Thank you, sir. And all we have out tonight is Eddie Simpson. Mr. Simpson contacted me a little bit earlier. He is in Nashville, I believe, at a detective's training, so that's why he's not here tonight, and I said I would share that. So Eddie's the only one out, all right, we got one. All right, folks, as you know, tonight is a special call meeting, and I know we have a lot of new commissioners, just to make sure everybody understands that. When we call a special call, we can only discuss what's on the agenda, okay? So of course tonight we have both allocations of ARPA that we need to discuss. But as far as bringing up any old business or new business, unfortunately we can't do it at this meeting, okay? That has to wait until the regular commission meeting, okay? So with that being said, folks, I'm just going to jump right in. What I want to do though, we brought reinforcements tonight. You know, of course we had a lot of questions and things when we met the last two meetings. So we have, gentlemen, if you'll stand up, we have Mr. Mitch Loomis and Jim Hendricks, and they're here from the East Tennessee Development District. And these guys are absolute rock stars. And I know I've said this 1,000 times, but when we apply for these big, huge grants, these are the guys that help us do that. And 9 times out of 10, we get them, and we appreciate that, guys. And they're wonderful. They help manage all these grants and manage our money for the grants. so they know what they're doing, okay? I have all the confidence in the world in them. So what I want to do, since Mitch and Tim are here tonight, I want to start with the water allocations, okay? So that would be the TDEC, ARPA. Again, there are two versions of ARPA. One is just the project list that we have. The other is the TDEC, which is the money that we're giving to the two cities and the two utilities, okay? So I know we have a lot of questions about that. I can pull, I'll switch back over to my computer and I can pull things up if we need. But, you know, we've thrown out a couple of options. Of course, we have, I think it's 4.4 million, I believe it is. So let me pull that up just a second. So we can do a number of things. This is option one. Again, this is simply splitting it 4 ways completely. And just to make sure everybody in the audience will go through this again, the city of Luttrell, which also will benefit the city of Plainview, which they're asking for money for their sewer system. Hallsdale Power Utility, Hallsdale, Luttrell Lane, and Maynardville all have lists of roads and areas that they are looking to improve, to rerun water lines, whatever the case may be. So all the commissioners have a list of those, all the priorities that those utilities want to do. Tim and Mitch can speak to that as well. So there you go, folks. And of course, I know that there was some talk the last time about we had given money to Maynardville Utility District, for instance, the maximum of grants. That was brought up, so we can talk about that tonight too. So with that being said, folks, this is the first allocation we need to do. So we'll just open up the floor for discussion. And if you guys have any burning questions, I'll try to answer them as best as I can. And we've got reinforcements here if I can answer those, okay? So I'll open the floor for discussion.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
What did they give the city of Maryville money? What kind of grant did they get?
It was Ty's here too, somewhere. Ty, make sure that I speak to this correctly, okay? It was two allocations. Oh, we have the 225. Okay, we have the motion here for one was $225,000. That comes from the American Rescue Plan. This is the other allocation, okay? Not this one. This is from the first one, okay? And this was to City of Maynardville as part of its funding match for a CDBG grant from the state of Tennessee for water line expansion as proposed by the city. And Ty, if I'm not mistaken, this is the one that included the lighting company up here and all that to try to combine that. Am I right on that grant? Because there were two that
That was a part of the ARC grant.
the ARC grant.
The ARC
Okay.
grant, and the county voted to give the city, it's $45,000 on that. Part of the city's match was $90,000, and HLG gave $45,000 of their own money as well.
Right.
And what that does is it puts a pump station in that area to allow for further expansion, not only for them, but the other businesses in that area.
Okay.
So that pump station should be delivered this week. Not sure where KUB is on the power, but that's a project that will be getting started soon, very soon.
Okay. That get you, Gerald?
That's it.
Yeah, all right. Gerald, did you have a question?
I was just gonna go back to City of Luttrell / City of Plainview. I thought last week, or the last time we met, that you said something to Jerry and we were gonna take City of Plainview off of that.
I think the reason for that is because the city of Luttrell is applying for it. The reason that I put it here is because it will benefit both, okay?
Okay.
But in their application and everything formal, Plainview will not be that,
Yeah.
okay? But thank you for bringing that up, I mean, so everybody understands that. But this is just my notes, but it will be the city of Luttrell receiving the money, okay? Not Plainview, it just benefits Plainview, okay? Thank you, Cheryl. Oh, Danny, go ahead, sorry, Danny.
That water project one that had all the confusion about whether people signed and didn't get water and that kind of thing. When I think I know all this money, I think I've got a plan here to fix that. I went over there today and drove it off. It's like a little over a mile 3/10, something like that, roughly 30 houses. Luttrell Blaine got 8,500 feet, which is a mile and 3/4. Here's a proposal for them. A mile and 3/4, 30 houses, $220,000. So, to make things right, make those people happy, give them water, I'm perfectly fine with giving Maryville the money, they even full amount. If they'll go over and do that first, all that money. That's the plan, and Lamb Road is a mile, a little over a mile, 30 houses. I'm not sure what took place on the Hurricane Holler side, I really don't know, I didn't have time to investigate that one, but, that's my opinion, be glad to make a motion to that effect, when we get time and all that.
Let me jump in, Danny, and I'm so sorry. Angela, I did not see you made a motion on the
No, I
iPad.
think my folder hit it, I'm sorry.
Okay, never mind, okay. No problem.
They've already got their money at the business. They've already got their money, so they already got their money.
No,
That's for the ARP.
that's for the
They got the
ARPA.
250,000,
225.
they've already got it.
But that was for the ARP and not for the TDEC, which is what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, I know. Well, the 250 was for that water line, wasn't it? The 225,
Yeah.
it was for that water line. They've already got it.
That's the water line you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about, that's where the, 30 or so people that didn't get water thought they were getting it, and I realized, every time I asked about it, they say that happens all the time, let's stop, don't do it anymore. I mean, we live in 21st century here, everybody's got a GPS in their pocket, get whoever filling out the applications, a list of people they need to go to, and let's not let this happen again. And that's just my opinion, I mean, a lot of people upset over that, I got a lot of nasty calls, kind of $2 million out, buzzers, but anyway. But let's make it, we make it right here.
Mayor Bailey?
We make it right.
You care if I speak on that?
No, sir. Go
Can
ahead.
I approach the?
Absolutely, yes, sir. Thank you, Ari.
Thank y'all for letting me speak. I'm going to touch on what Mr. Cook and Mr. Lair are discussing. The CDBG project that he is referencing. So let me go back a couple of years. When we initially approached this project, we had it engineered roughly around $500,000. We had funds set aside to take care of that, and COVID hit. And unfortunately, one of the negative areas of COVID was supply chain, inflation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We've all been affected by it. So when the supply chain came back, to whatever point it did come back to, inflation had already hit, especially a lot of the piping. We know that because we just got a check for Highway 33 for the piping to be moved close to $900,000 to help that. Once we had to re-engineer it with the new prices, it came in, Jason, what was it, $270,000 over budget with the inflated prices for that CDBG
Oh,
project.
yes, I'm sorry, it sounds about right, I know it's
Yeah.
several hundred, yeah.
So we had two options. Option one was completely scrap the CDBG project and nobody would have got water. Option two was to approach the county and ask for help to get water out to the county. So how these CDBG projects work is we look at a whole area and they survey the whole area. And here's where some of the confusion that Mr. Cook spoke of. Homes are surveyed for income, because this is a LMI project, low to moderate income, but they're also intertwined, because we have to know who wants water. And that's important because if we run $100,000 worth of water line down Road A, and we don't survey anybody, we get that line in the ground, turn that water on, nobody hooks up, how's that $100,000 water line gonna get paid for? It's not. So we go to every home, we find out who wants water, who needs water. And we also have to factor in, where can we get the most customers in the smallest area? Because obviously it doesn't make sense to go down Road A and get 10 houses at $100,000. We can go down Road B and get 20 houses at $100,000. It's just simple math. So the grant administrators that completed the survey, did the study, came back with this map right here. I'm gonna pass this out if that's okay, Mayor. Would you like a copy?
Sure. Thanks, sir.
Just right for Mr. Lane. Yeah, four right there. Appreciate you. Push it forward. We good? Squared away? Okay. If you'll look at that map, that TV should look pretty familiar, doesn't it? That TV's that TV right there. This map was on this TV 2 times. If you'll notice, right in the middle of the map, it says Area 3, Landon Road. And in that little square, it shows a small section of Landon Road. That's what the grant administrator said we had to do. And that's what we did. So yes, there are people on Landon Road that got surveyed. Just because you get surveyed doesn't mean you're going to get water. We have to do what the grant administrator says, and we have to do what is best financially for us. So that's what happened. Any questions in regards to that? Personally, I'd love to get water to everybody we can get water to. But at the end of the day, we gotta be smart with our money. That's just the bottom line. For y'all that don't know, I know we got tons of new commissioners. Congratulations, by the way, to all the new ones. And the veterans, congratulations, y'all being retained. Let me throw this out there. The Maynardville Utility Department is a completely separate entity from the Maynardville City Government. So we cannot take money from Maynardville Utility Department, go buy a police cruiser, go pave a street. It's just 2 completely separate things. So I know that had been mentioned, that there was some confusion there, so I want to go ahead and nip that, get that out of the way. 2 completely separate entities. But if y'all have any questions at all, feel free to ask while I'm here. I'll answer to the best of my ability. If I don't know the answer, I'll get the answer to you. I know we're short on time, so probably. Okay.
It's a lot of money, we need to figure out
Oh,
where
absolutely.
to use it best. So that's fine.
And we know as a utility department, there are tons of need in this county. There's needs in Luttrell for sewer. We want to see Luttrell get help with their sewer. There's needs in the chapel with water expansion. We want to see that happen. We want to see all the communities receive help, whether it's water, sewer, whatever. We just want to, the main reason why I wanted to be here, I know there was some confusion. We have tons of new commissioners, and I just wanted to spread some information, open up for any questions, if there are any questions, concerns.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Is it, does the Maryville utility charge the people in the county more than they do in the city?
There are 2 separate rates, yes.
How much higher is it?
I don't know the exact rates, to be honest with you.
Well, why is that?
It's, so essentially you go from where, obviously we've got our utility district and our utility departments, we're in 5 districts. As we push out, it gets more expensive. For example, let's say you have a distribution center right here, okay? It's going to cost you a whole lot more money to distribute your product to Sharps Chapel than it is to Union County High School. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, some of them's out in the county though, and some of the water,
Yes,
before you get the water out in the county.
some of them are, yes.
Yeah.
But as we expand out, and as cost is rising, that's been going up. Now, we do have a current rate study right now with TAUD, and that's even being looked at as well. So yes, there are 2 different rates. I believe we discussed that last time I was here.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But we did.
yeah.
I have no idea.
Figure that out.
You don't have no projection on how many houses, when your customers you possibly get from.
On the project list,
Yeah.
We do have that, is that not in the numbers that was sent?
I'm not sure I've got it, I can pull it up.
Well, just another thing, like city manager can do this, and then the city to use the jail.
Well, I know some of these roads are rehab projects. For example, the city of Maynardville's been looking at Monroe Road for 6 years. And the reason why they've been looking at that particular road is there's been tons of houses built there. There's a very small water line that supplies that road. And that water line is not big enough to support a fire hydrant. With the new homes that have been built or being built, we won't be able to support a fire hydrant in that area. And that's what that's for. Plus, that water line is also underneath the middle of the road. And we want to move that out and get it on one side or the other. So God forbid, when a water line does break, if they do break, we don't have to break up the road. So that kills two birds with one stone.
Do you know how many houses that Landon Road that you all had in that project that actually got water?
That CDBG project supplied 53 homes.
On the Landon Road?
Yeah, the CDBG project,
Line road got one out. Like that.
well, that project right there, that map in your hand supplied 53 homes.
The other side, the Hurricane Horror side went up to all the way subdivision, stopped, went through the subdivision, that worked out. 52 homes, they got one on Landon Road. I heard they got two on more, along the gap. Don't know if that's true, but I've heard that.
What do people are asking, water on Landon Road, they ask, you know, they're asking, I hear people are concerned they want water.
Yeah, they're way over bad.
Yeah.
And we have heard that, we have even engineered that. Now, I'll go ahead and tell you, it's expensive. The current list we have right now, with the prices right now, obviously, these prices are doing up and going up. But to get 23 homes as of today on Landon Road, you're looking at about $440,000.
Is that how many are?
I'm just talking about price-wise, for 23 homes, $440,000.
I don't understand that. I don't know where they, it's not that far to the first house.
There's a lot of rock, it's gonna require a lot of drilling.
There a lot there.
Oh, you're right.
But
You're absolutely right.
It didn't work up there, it did anywhere
I'm
else.
just going
And
off,
I'm just going off of footage, I mean, some of these other people.
Yeah. I'm just going off what the engineer presents to us. Engineer presents to us, hey, this is what it costs. I'm not an engineer.
How many houses are
I counted about 30 today. Just a little over mile, 310. But it is a quarter of a mile till you get to the first house. Once you get to the first house, we're through. Plus, there's a subdivision back there too, go back to the lake. That you pick up off the land, and I can't think of the name of it. Houses back there.
I understand you want water at Landon Road. We want water everywhere. If we could get water everywhere, that'd be a perfect world, but it's not a perfect world.
Have you, I got a question.
Yeah.
You just got a certain district that you can run water, can you run water into?
No, right now, we currently service 5 districts here in the county.
Well, how would they apply it? They've got a big line all the way up Hickory Valley.
They do. But I'll say this, if it's gonna cost us $440,000 to supply 23 homes, it's gonna cost them $440,000 to supply 23 homes.
Yeah, for
There you go.
water rates is cheaper
Okay?
in the county.
All right. What, Larry, the point I'm trying to make is, from a business standpoint, running that, it's extremely difficult for any utility, whether it's a small utility or a large utility. You take 23 homes to pay off $440,000 worth of pipe in the ground, that's gonna take a long time. Plus, the other factor you gotta factor in, the state requires all utilities to depreciate. Your general fund, the state doesn't require you to do that. The state requires us to do that on the utility side. So we get hit twice. We get hit with the cost of doing it, then we got the depreciation.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know you do, but Grants puts water line in the ground now.
When we can get them, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mayor, you tell us that if we give that money, you take care of the people on Lamb Road?
I can't tell you that. That's a decision that the city council has to make. And I'm just one member of the city council, so I will not and cannot speak on behalf of the city council.
Let me ask you this, since you run a short line down Lyman Road, which is probably 500 feet, does that restrict anybody else? Haul Del Five or anybody else, that's your territory now, Lyman Road.
Within our territory, to the best of my knowledge, yes. There would have to be discussion there. Yeah.
So we like, we need to get Lyman Road water out of this somehow. Any of these new projects,
Some of those are new projects, some of them are rehab, some of them are, some old lines that need to go.
You know, the arguments, I mean, you can look at your stuff, or but you can't really tell whether it's new or what.
I'm not for sure 100%. I know the Prospect Road is not a new line, that's a rehab. The Grove Road's rehab.
Both prospects.
Yes, both prospects. Most of the others, don't hold me to this, I think they're new lines, if I'm not mistaken. Jesse Road, Swansea Moore, Home Ridge, Cox. Any other questions?
I spoke to the people over on Cox Road, and
Yes.
you're only gonna get about 3 houses on Cox Road.
yeah, not that long.
Yeah, I've already talked to
We have discussed that, but the cost to pick up those 3 homes are extremely cheap. Again, we want to hit everywhere that we can. That area hitting Cox Road is just, if you look at the engineer price for what it cost us to get the water there for the 3 homes, it's fairly cheap compared to a lot of the projects that are out there, so. One of the things we're trying to factor in when deciding, obviously we factored in some rehab lines, that need to be looked at. But we also tried to look at where it's gonna be the cheapest per customer, per home. You know, there were some that were just outrageous. It was $60,000, $70,000 a home. By the time you get that paid off, and plus you factor in the depreciation that the state requires us to, it's hard to make that decision to do that. So,
When you do these grants, do you take into consideration if people like their wells are bad and they're dry, or if you have a particular area that's bad?
It all depends on the grant. A lot of the grants are LMIs. They're low to moderate income. That's the grants that I am familiar with. As far as some of the other, I'm not aware of any grants based upon wells going dry. I haven't heard any, I'm not saying they don't exist, I just,
But
I
I'm just
haven't
saying,
heard
I
any.
mean, when you have this discussion, do you take that into consideration? So if you have a street that there, a majority of the people on that, their wells are bad, or they've got bad water, you know, do you take that into consideration when you decide what to put these?
Obviously, we'll take anything into consideration, but when you're factoring in grants, there's usually very specific stipulations that say A, B, C, and we have to abide by A, B, C. So when we abide by A, B, C, and D, it even on there, D's wells, I mean, obviously, I would, from a person standpoint, an empathy standpoint, yes, we factor that stuff in, but we have to abide by the stipulations.
Yeah, I know, and I've done some of these.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm aware of some of the well issues, not just on Landon Road, but throughout the county, everywhere. And I hate that I do.
It's bad to have to carry water.
Oh, yeah.
That's really that issue.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You all test the water, like, let's say somebody said they had a bad well or whatever it is, in the whole process of this, is the water tested to see if it is bad quality or anything from the grant side of things?
Not that I'm aware of, I'm not saying it doesn't, I'm not aware of that. Obviously, in the little over 4 years I've been with the city of Maynardville, I've heard of individuals or developers testing certain areas. Obviously, as we develop as a county and grow, the likelihood of well water being contaminated, it goes up. That's just plain, simple math right there. And, that's something we also have to, look at and consider. But again, like I was talking with Ms. Flatford, when it comes to these grants, y'all know about grants just as well as I do, the stipulations, and that's what we have to abide by.
All right, any other questions for me?
Are they a program out there now, like, you got old pipe in the ground that you're gonna take out and replace the new pipe? Are they a reimbursement back to the utility department for that?
I'm not saying there's not, I'm not aware of one.
I think that's infrastructure. I read somewhere that if you've got old pipe, the city's got to put it in first and then they get reimbursed back.
No, now, what President Biden has implemented a EPA
I
mandate.
forgive you with it.
Well, I'm just, this is where the mandate came from, just so everybody knows, so if you have water, you'll be aware, you may have received a letter. President Biden has released an EPA mandate. All utilities in the United States has to go essentially build a database of every water line they have in the ground. Thankfully, we have some documentation of a lot of our water lines that they will accept for that. But some of them, we're gonna have to dig up, just take pictures and send it in. And then you factor that mandate in, a federal mandate with no federal help at all. You take a little utility like Maynardville Utility, that's gonna cost us a lot of money and manpower just to be able to do that.
But you could use this grant for one like that, I guess, and then get reimbursed too, and put the water line in. I mean, that, just like the county give you so much money to replace those lines and then apply for this money to it.
Apply for, which money are we talking about?
You said that I didn't have that EPA money.
No, there's no EPA money, there's a mandate. There's no money with it, it's just, hey, you do this or you're gonna be fined
You're gonna
X
pay for
amount of money.
everything and they're not gonna reimburse you.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yes.
When do you have to have that done by?
Not unless they've changed it. Gentlemen, you only know, was it 2026? Oh, they moved it?
2026.
Okay, 2026.
Maybe for the
You
item.
No
mentioned
reimbursement on it.
Any other questions?
Mention 10 real quick, is what Larry's talking about, maybe the scorecards, is that it to where, and Larry, we had mentioned this a couple of meetings ago, like, thank you, Ty, thank you. For instance, if a utility or a city had an aging water line, they have to list that as one of their top priorities, is that correct? So within the TDEC money even, is that right? Okay. Okay, no more questions for Manuel, I guess, so, all right, well, we have a motion on the floor, my apologies. Dan Cook, what's your motion, sir?
Make a motion to give Maynardville the equal amount, but Landon Road has to be, everybody that signed up on Landon Road has to get water. Get first.
You're talking about $1,140,000.
Equal, however they equal.
Here's equal, I'm putting it up right now, and I've got it down to the penny.
I say that motion.
The total is 4.419 million, and to split this would be 1.1 million. And all the way down even, except for the last penny here, I cut Maynardville a penny, okay? But that makes it even. However, let me ask this, okay, before we get a second on this motion, Tim and Mitch, if you can answer this. Since this is a utility, can the county commission specify that Lambton Road has to be completed within this money?
So, basically, Maynardville and Luttrell, being cities, the money either has to go to the county or the city. Of course, right now, the money's went to the county. Now, you have a resolution that you can pass and say, we're gonna give the $1 million some odd dollars to Maynardville in a resolution. What that does is say, Maynardville, it's yours. You do the application, you make sure that, if you mess up, it's gonna be on them. It's not gonna be on the county. You're kind of saying, that money's going to Maynardville. Now, you can put it in there, but Maynardville doesn't necessarily, once it goes to their city council, they don't necessarily have to follow that if you do that, if you do it that way.
But the utilities, as in LBC and Hallsdale, must follow what we're saying.
They will follow what.
Because we're doing the books.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, those two we're actually doing, the ones that we are, you guys as a county are actually doing. So there's a couple of issues on both of those utilities that they have to do the scorecards, which we can get into. But that other stuff, you can pick, they had some priorities, so you can say, okay, they've got priority 2, 3, 4, but we like it, the switch to go 4, 3, 2, so to speak. And then that's what they would follow. They would follow those priorities. Now, the Maynardville and the Luttrell, you're basically giving that money to those cities and their utilities. And they can spend out of that, to be honest with you. I mean,
Do they not have to do a financial report like on a monthly basis or something?
They'll do it themselves.
They will do it themselves.
But they don't have to bring it back to us?
No.
So the resolutions you'll be passing for Maynardville and Luttrell will remove the burden of any administration of those funds from the county and move to the municipality. So there's a process we have to follow, so like tonight, we need to pass those two resolutions specifically for Maynardville and Luttrell, so that then the county will draft a letter, submit it to TDEC, transferring the responsibility and those funds to the municipalities. The municipalities themselves will draft letters to TDEC accepting those funds, and the money then is transferred over. That has to be done by November 1st, so that's why at this meeting, we need to make sure we pass those two resolutions.
So you're saying we'll give Maynard this money, they can spend it in what they want to, they don't have to go.
Well, they can't do anything. They have to spend it based on water and sewer.
But they don't have to go down the road.
They do not. And I just, being honest with you.
But also, you have to keep in mind that there are scorecards that identify deficiencies, and they have to address those deficiencies, and you can't just run water lines without having to address those too. So it could be that in addressing those deficiencies, there isn't enough money remaining to do those water lines. And the TDEC isn't going to allow just water lines to be run with this money.
Who determines the scorecards?
Yes, that's scorecard.
That's from TAUD and TDEC together.
Yeah.
Although Maynardville is a utility district, you're not giving this money to the city, you're giving it to the utility district, aren't we?
Well, the city has to be the applicant. So the city will apply and manage the money, and it goes to the utility to do the work.
Mitch, who's going to take the bids on these projects? The city of Maryville and the city of Luttrell will take their own bids, won't they?
Yeah.
They,
Yeah, if you pass that resolution, you're basically taking all the burden of those $2 million and putting it on them. So if they don't go out for bids and feds come back to them and say, guys, you totally messed up, Union County is not held responsible for any of that. They will go back.
Does East Tennessee Development District approve the bids, or who approves the bids
That would be whoever they select as their administrator for those.
in that
projects.
city?
In that city.
In other words, our finance director, she don't have nothing to
She
do
would-
with
she
it
would not-
once we give them the
Yeah,
money.
she would not touch any of that, no.
However, she will for Luttrell, Blaine, Torrington, and Hallsdale, because they are utilities, not cities.
Yeah.
So that will fall under Missy's
Yes.
control, yes.
Yeah.
And Danny, just to make sure you have withdrawn your motion, is
If
that correct?
we don't pass this resolution for them, we control it,
If you don't pass that resolution, yes, you can.
or we can control
Yeah,
it,
that's
one
one
way where it goes.
that is definitely an option. If you don't pass that resolution, you're saying, we're gonna take, now, ultimately, I mean, Maynardville Utility could still come back and say, well, guys, we don't want your money, because we ain't gonna do what you say. So they would have the right.
Well, they have a right of refusal.
Yes, they would have the right of refusal, yeah.
But you're telling us that we can earmark Hallsdale Powell and LEC, but we can't this, correct?
Yeah, if you pass the resolution,
That's a.
if you pass the resolution for
Well,
those.
what about if we, and again, make sure I'm understanding this, we can't ask them, we can't audit them and have them come back and give a progress report on the updates of the money and how it's spent.
No. I mean, you can ask them, but
They're not required.
they're not required to give you anything.
Well, can we stipulate in the utilities, like LDC and Hallsdale Powell, that it just be spent in the county?
It will be.
And it will be, and yes, you can, I mean, those two.
Yeah, the
It
lines.
has to be within the boundaries of Union County.
Yeah,
It's
so it
using
can't go
Union
outside
County's
the
funds.
Yeah, it cannot go outside the county, yes.
We just, Right now, we're just discussing water, we're not going to discuss, we've got to discuss these other things too.
Yes, sir. Yes. This is, TDEC is a separate allocation. And as Vincent Tillman said, if we don't have this approved by November, we lose $4.4 million. So we
I'm
we
gonna
gotta
make
get
a
this going.
motion that, they've already voted a motion.
Danny, did you withdraw yours officially?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll withdraw that. Okay, if you'll hit your motion, Larry, and say your motion, please.
I'm gonna make a motion that we give up all utilities, except the city of Maryville, we take the $225,000 out of there, and the other that's left, split that up amongst all of them.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Lay to, basically the allocations, you take the equal share that Maryville has, deduct $225,000. Is that correct, Larry? That will be their allocation, and the others get the remaining evenly.
Yeah,
Is that fair?
ain't there some left? Divide that up to equal, must, or they ain't left out all that.
Well, I mean,
You divide the 225,000.
Yeah. Between the other utilities.
yeah, and split it evenly. Is that correct? Yes, yes, yes. I mean, I can do the math up here if you guys want to do it, but okay, hold on just a second. Okay, first, do we have a second on this motion? Do we have a second on Larry's motion? We have a second by RL. Okay, give me 1 second, folks. Let me pull this up and we'll show you what it looks like.
Maryville over the last 10 years has got $328,475 in CDBG and operations. And that starts from 2014 till today. I agree.
How much is it on the city?
The city of Maryville, since 2014, I had the finance department to run a report over the last 10 years. And the city of Maryville, to the best of my calculation, has received $328,475 of CDBG and ARPA money. Now, the biggest majority of that has came within the last 2 years. $225,000 came last month, and $45,000 came, I think, March of 2021. So that was a total of $270,000 out of 328. So they've,
But as I was saying, this county commission, I'm talking about the ones left, we haven't given anybody anything.
Gary, did you give the city of Maryville $225,000 last meeting?
Well, we give the city of Electrical $625,000 if we're counting that.
Well, this commission did.
We approved the contract.
Well, the grant goes back, but that's, I mean, again, money's money, that's how I know. But the city of Electrical, while we're on that subject, the only thing Electrical has received from the county in payment has been $110,000 over the last 10 years. That was $11,000 allocated per year to pay for the library. And that was if they don't got no transfer.
Hold on, folks, 1 second. I erased my whole spreadsheet. I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second.
I got 1.254848.
Give me 1 second, sir. I had to erase my whole thing. Hold on. Okay, I've got Maryville's allocation would be $879,848.95. And then the remaining will go to the other utilities, okay? You guys want me to put that up on the screen so you can see the numbers? Is that okay? All right, give me 1 second. What was your number, Cheryl?
I raised it out. It's 1.27. Because they get an extra 75,000, don't they, the other three? If Myron got, what was it?
250, said, yes, that's right. So that would be 75 additional, yeah. There we go. Sorry for the delay, folks. I'm so sorry, my whole spreadsheet went away. All right, so, the motion on the floor is, okay, we have this money, equal would be 1.1 million. Commissioner Lay had made the motion to take 225,000 off of that, so that would be Manuel's allocation at $879,848.94. You take the remaining and split it equally among the others, that's $1,179,000, $1,179,848.95. So right there on the screen, and it looks like it is correct. Yep, everything comes to the penny. So that is the motion, and we have a second. So any questions before we vote on this? Any questions? All right, hang on.
Questions, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lynn. Yes, sir.
Well, the county commission seemed like it had the city mayor on the floor. What about Luttrell and Hosdale and them? Are they represented? And do they want to speak before we vote?
We do. We have, see, there's LBC, Hallsdale, yes, and do we have Luttrell here yet?
Yes, we're in City of Luttrell.
City of Luttrell. Mayor Lawson called, and I thought he said somebody from his development district was coming. Did anybody come from the city? No? Okay, yeah, if you guys want to speak, Hallsdale, if you'd like to say anything, you're more than welcome to.
I'll answer any questions.
Thank you. Okay. Lynn, did you have any specific questions or anything, or?
Hosdale?
No,
LBC.
Hallsdale's here too, so, or not, I'm sorry, LBC, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you how we planned on spending the money. Okay? First, we have to do the scorecard. So water loss, GIS mapping, asset management. Those are three things you've got to get. So most utilities got that. That's about $240,000. So the other lines, the money was originally planned to do replacements of old pipe, 50-year-old pipe. So now they come back and say, yeah, you can extend water lines. Okay? So we are looking at water line extension on Tater Valley Road that we engineered about 5 years ago. And we tried to get a CDBG grant. So to answer your question, you have to have two things for a CDBG. You have to have low to moderate income people, and it has to be about 52% of that. Then they have to have bad water, so it takes into consideration both those things. So when we went down Tater Valley Road, there wasn't enough low to moderate income people, and there wasn't enough bad water. So we didn't get no CDBG money, because you're competing all across the state of Tennessee to try and get $500,000. And when we got 50 customers and somebody else has got 100, the governor gives that money to them. So we don't control that. So does that answer your question about that? Bad water and low moderate income people?
Tater Valley, does that go from 61 to?
It goes from the Union County line, Granger County line, Union, all the way down to 61. Yes, sir. Okay, and we have that engineered, so hopefully we can just get the state to reapprove that, because we paid for the engineering on that. So based on the numbers you gave, that leaves, that's about $820,000. I want to address one other thing. You used to could run a mile of pipe for about $100,000 to $125,000. That'd cost you $250,000. There was some pipe bid the other day, 2-inch lines, $50 a foot. It's ridiculous. Okay? And now all this money is going to get turned loose. So you don't have enough contractors to do all the work, so there's gonna be a high dollar. Okay, so I put $50 a foot in all my prices. So hopefully we can do that. Okay, I don't know. So I know we're gonna bid some Knox County money. We get money from Knox County, Granger County, and Union County. This money will be spent in Union County, okay? Knox County money in Knox County. So we did get federal money from Knox County, about 1.5 million from them. So I assume this money here has a 10% match. Or you have to put in 10%.
Is that correct, 10%? Yeah.
Okay, we have to put in 10%. Okay? So in Knox County, you have to put in 30%. Okay? So I appreciate the 10. So anyway, your 1.18 million is now going to turn into 1.28 million. Okay, so we'll do as much as we can. We certainly have some AC pipe in the ground over there. We want to replace that. It's 55 years old. Okay? But we'll extend lines. We've got along Corrigan Road to the Knox County line. We've got Tazewell Pike to the Knox County line. And we've got Archer Road. Those folks do not have any water on Archer Road. And the folks on Taylor Valley Road, they don't have any water either. And we got to replace the AC pipe along Tazewell Pike to Highway 61. That just about take all the money. So we won't be doing that project there. Okay? We'll try to do as much as we can.
We don't have any plans for Knox Lane.
For what?
Come Knox Lane, we don't have any plans.
No, that's
No.
not.
That's all.
That's all.
All
He's
that
gonna
All that well, I'm
Yeah. No, me and Darren, we know each other. Oh, man.
I didn't know you flagged him, I thought you
Yeah.
said,
I'm sorry. I'm Jimmy Langley, I'm the manager. Okay?
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Items 1, 2, and 3 there, the large meters, the software, and the GIS management. Those items, do they service just Union County, or is that system-wide?
Only Union County.
So
We
the
have the
other
same
counties are
thing.
cost sharing in that 90,000 for those software systems?
No, we've got that much money in their software for
Okay.
that. Okay? We don't know how much it'll cost. It might end up costing $50,000.
This is just their portion.
Just your portion. Okay, we've got money in Granger County for that same thing, that scorecard.
And that's required. I mean, if you have to address the scorecard, you can't just skip over it and say, we'll take care of that later and go run water lines. They're gonna come back and null and void your.
And I'll tell you this, you know, I appreciate all you are doing it. You got 19 days, okay? And I've been dealing with this for 3 years. And
Me too.
And Knox County just called me with 40 more questions. Okay, and I'm sure you'll have them, so we need to get this done. Okay, and we'll do the best we can. If you got something special you want done, we'll run it up the flagpole. But I will say this and then I'll shut up. You'll never pay for a water line that you put in. Never. You can't spend $1 million and charge the people $20. If you want to get 20 people to pay $20 a month, that's $400. And give me $1 million, okay? I'll be less to give you $400 a month. Need papers?
you got about water.
Then you gotta buy the water. But things is very expensive right now. Very expensive. So don't be surprised when that $580,000 project comes in and bid.
Thanks, sir. Darren, thank you. And this is Darren with Holiday.
Yeah, Derek Carter, also about.
Hold that well.
Now, Danny, fire away.
First question.
I do have Connaught Lane. Yeah, I went out myself and measured Connaught Lane and done an estimate on that and turned that back in. There's several customers on that road. I mean, it could be achievable, I believe, in the whole scheme of things. Most of all of our projects, I did come back with a lake project. You know, we've got a little bit of work I'd like to do on some disinfection equipment over at Norris Water Treatment Plant, which I put in $250,000 for that. Now, the rest of the project for us were line extensions. So they were, Connaught Lane was on that list originally, Sharps Chapel Road, That would be out Big Six going towards Chernew. Forestry Department out there, I believe they just built, they've been really dying to try and get water out there to that facilities. I looked at Hickory Valley and then Jess Perry. Those are just places that people have called us. Now, there may be areas that you all know that, like Knott, got up on our radar. Basically, I think Donna called me, and I went out and looked at Knott and done an estimate. So all of ours are pretty much line extensions except for a little bit of plant work that I can shift some of that too. But of course, the projects are going to, we don't know, you know, they are going to probably run a little high. Estimates are, we do quite a bit of bidding, and so estimates are coming in a little higher, pipe prices, pipe delivery times. So it's something you got to be aware of, getting this, if you're going to do all this, getting it approved so they can get us to work. Because we're like 12 to 18 months on a lot of the pipe deliveries right now. So getting us designed and getting us to work is probably your goal. So, you know, doesn't cover, all that money wouldn't cover the projects I originally listed. So we'd have to figure out which ones y'all would most want to do on the list. Hickory Valley, it would be down from Albright to Macedonian, but that's your largest project. I think I estimated at $971,000 down through there. It's a pretty good stretch, but one thing, you know, everybody's talking about cost recovery. Jimmy just talked about it a little bit. You know, we've all been in this arena for a long time, and yeah, you won't recover from what I put in the systems up here and what I put in Knox County and in Anderson County. I started for counties like Jimmy. So, you know, so you don't, it's hard to recover these dollars. But you got to look at it as this is your lifeblood of your communities. So, public drinking water is going to be your lifeblood to growth, quality of life, and those kind of things. So, any investment you want to put in is always going to be a good investment. Now, day one, you know, we ran. I think Larry and I worked on a project. We were laying down Sharp Chapel Road for, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 miles or more, grinding through rock to get to Sharp Chapel Elementary School. I think you had, at the time, was on a violation to shut down.
Yeah, he come out and he reached good.
So, you know, we worked, a lot of people maybe don't know the history behind that, but we worked with Larry in the county and the school to purchase water from Claiborne, your Union, to Union County line, and we ran a line all the way there and started that investment. Since then, we've invested in putting a water plant over there. We serve quite a big communities. You got Sunset Bay, North Shore, Tanglewood area, Cape Russell, Postmasters, Back Road. We serve way out Sharp Chapel, so we Shelly Lane now, all of it, Harness. So a lot of roads up there, a lot of roads down through Union County, down off of Hickory Valley, Burkhart, all that, Lewiston. So yeah, it won't happen today, but it'll happen eventually. People will say, I need that water, and when you're able to go up there and get it, it's nice to have it. And so any investment you put into the water system to grow it is always going to be an investment for your future. And I know, you know, you've got some major issues over in Luttrell, and they need the dollars, people, I'm telling you, to fix that sewer. I have a very large sewer system that we operate, and I mean, it will consume a lot of money to get them back up to speed when you're on the radar of the state and EPA. So yeah, we would have to figure out, you know, what projects. I looked and said, well, Sharp Chapel Road would be a project, cannot, and then if, you know, water treatment plant upgrades to disinfection systems, so it's in need of, and that would be a little over, that'd be 1.2 million, give or take. A lot of them, we're just going to have to see where the estimates all come in at the end of the day. So,
On the upgrades to that system, is that the full cost estimate?
It'll probably be, I'm just gonna be quite honest, it's gonna be more, and I'm gonna cover the buffer of that.
The majority of that water, does it goes to Knox County or Union?
It goes all the way through Union County into Knox County, yes. So we do serve in the northern part of Halls. And, our plant in Anderson County serves Anderson County all the way into Union County. So Mountain Hill Water Treatment Plant serves all the way up here, into the edge of Union County also. So plants are more regionally, you can't look at them as instruments like, well, it's ours, it's in, you know, we have to figure out how to interconnect our systems. But yeah, it does flow water back down into, the northern part of Halls there.
And that thing with the water plant will take care of his scorecard. In his scorecard, he did have a thing about.
There is on the scorecard, probably more related to Mountain Hill, it's our older plant.
So that would take care of, so that when we're turning that in, we can show that he's taking care of part of his scorecard off that. So that's, you know, we feel like
But
that's.
if the commission was, if they wanted to go straight with extensions, I'm fine with that too, but we just have to have that punch to say, hey, here's which direction we want to go. And then we'll just direct all the funds to extensions and see how far the money goes. But like you said, he's on the time crunch trying to get that from there.
All right, folks, any more questions for Darren? All right, thank you, sir. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate that. All right, so you've heard from Maynardville, LBC, Hallsdale, and of course, as I told you, the city of Luttrell couldn't be here tonight. I thought someone was coming. Anybody come in for Luttrell? No, but of course you have the list in front of you on what they're planning to spend. So that being said, we have a motion on the floor and a second. One last time, if you want to look at the screen, these are the numbers that will be allocated. Again, this is, we have minus 225 from Maynardville's allocation, and then what's left over was split and given to the others. Okay, so there it is, folks. We have a, yes, sir.
If you can make that motion for Maynardville and for Luttrell in the form of a resolution, because the state requires a resolution to be passed for those two.
Let me ask this, can we approve this and then go back and approve a resolution?
Yes.
Can we do it like that? Okay, let's do it like that, folks. Let me change over so we can see, and if there's no other questions, go ahead and vote, please. Motion failed. All right, so back to the drawing board. Do we have any other recommendations?
Mr. Mayor, may I speak?
Yes, sir.
Yo. I'm Isaac Collins from the city of Maryville. I don't have near the experience. I know those two fellows in the back there, and their water lineage pretty well from my day job. I'm new on the city commission of Maryville. I've only been there for 2 years, but I've heard several things here tonight that I just want to reiterate a few points. One is, Mr. Jesse, the monies that we received from whichever commission it was, extremely thankful. Please, gentlemen, correct me if I'm wrong, but the 255 went for CDBG grant that serves people just like Landon Road. Just so happened at the time, though, that wasn't an option to do that. Two other things that I heard tonight I wanted to speak to was, as far as the Landon Road goes. During our time as a commission, when the five of us were trying to decide how to spend the money, many people wanted that done. However, there just was no room to put that in. That being said also too, after we saw what the other districts asked for, we were under the impression that we can only ask for a fourth. So we took that fourth, and that's exactly what we worked towards to present to you all. We didn't want to spend a dime more. If we could have asked for $2 million, whatever it was, or if we had known that was an option, Landon Road would have been absolutely on there. The other thing was, Kenny, you said something about Cox Road. That goes back to the previous point, when we had the $1.1 million to spend, and we laid everything out over many hours and categorized what we wanted to do. The only two things that would fit in the money we had left lingering was Cox Road and Cone Ridge Road. They were the smallest money-wise two, I believe, that we had an option for. We were right at $1 million, and we added those in to get back to that 1.1. If we knew we could have asked for 1.5 or 1.6 or 1.7, Lambton Road would have been the next that we added on there. Yes, sir.
Why in the world would you waste money running 500 feet of pipe down Landon Road to pick up one house? I can answer that question, but I'd like to hear what you've got to say about that.
Why would we waste?
Why would you run pipe 500 feet to pick up one house and stop? If you locked up Landon Road, they'll never get water now, because you all got the rights to Landon Road. You run a pipe 500 feet, it gives you the right to it. You're the only one that can tie onto it and go. Those folks will never get water.
I sure hope they do.
You know they don't. You know they won't.
Danny, I don't know how to answer that. I say that if it was.
I just answered it. You locked it up. You locked, hauled it up out, can't run it. Nobody else can run it because you all locked it up. You did the same thing that from one guy.
I'll say this, when I first started this, I was warned about parents of kids as far as from the city side of things and from the water side of things. Somebody gave me a wonderful piece of advice, and it has run true. There is nobody any madder than the last person on the line.
I agree.
And I find that to be true every day. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
I'm just making commission aware of what happened.
Sure.
Any questions for us? And Lynn, do you want to say
Yes,
something?
I got a comment.
Go ahead, sir.
We didn't run the water line anywhere to lock up anything. I think if you'll check, you'll find out that's in our utility district.
It is now.
It was anyway.
All the way up out and got one right.
It don't make no difference. Yeah. It's our utility district. If they approach us for water,
Where's this road at exactly? I guess I'm not familiar with this particular road.
It's off of Hickory Valley.
Straight out Hickory Valley.
Yeah. It gets, I'm like not really get, it gets a little complex when you start looking at laws. You do have the city boundary, then you've got a radius outside the city boundaries that the city of Maynardville can serve. And then there's some laws that get conflicting when you, they can't serve and somebody else can, and there's.
Let me make it a little simpler. They went up Hurricane Holler.
I'm not real sure.
They went up Hurricane Holler, then they load up equipment, drive 2 miles up Hickory Valley and run 500 feet on Landon Road. Now, what does that look like, an outsider looking in? It looks like you locked up Landon Road where nobody can get water. Why would you load all that equipment up, drive 2 miles and run 500 feet for one house?
We had multiple spots with that project throughout the county.
I realize
To do
that.
water.
Yeah.
And we have to go based upon the stipulations of that grant. We're not locking up anything. If we had had an extra $400,000 and run it down to Landon, the next road over would have wanted water too.
we loaded that equipment up again and went on up the road. Must tied it up too.
Do what?
We loaded that same equipment
And
and went right on up the road and done
Yeah,
some
you
more.
have a project up there. You got a project on the weekend, pretty big project. I understand that. Why stop at Landon Road? Go on up there.
I think, if you'll check the map, I don't know whether you presented it or not.
That map,
It was brought here
ain't
before you.
nobody can tell what's on that map. And it looked about like that when it was on screen. I'm tired of hearing about the map. Now, you can't tell nothing about it. I took a picture of it and loaded it up on my phone, and you still can't really tell.
Dan, that was on the TV 2 different times.
Well, folks, we don't want this to be a war here tonight over this money. We know what we need to do, and Isaac, thank you. Lynn, thank you. Mayor Blakely, thank you. So we just need to move on, folks. So, we've got to get this money approved. You guys know what we need to do, so we just need to open up the floor for other motions, discussions on how to split the money up. So,
Thank you, Mayor.
yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you, previous and present commission, for the help to grow the community, which is this full report.
Thank you, Isaac.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so we'll go back to the drawing board, folks. So again, let me throw this back up, just so you can kind of see the numbers. This is the old allocation, but, do we have any other motions, any other suggestions? Plug in?
I'm gonna make a motion, I know it's not gonna pass.
Oh, wait, hold on, I'm so sorry. When I flip back and forth, folks, I have to look at the iPad too, sometimes I don't, my apologies. Let me go back, because we do have a motion on the floor by Mr. Bill Cox, and sorry, Gerald, I didn't interrupt you. He made his motion. Bill, go ahead, sir.
I make a motion to divide this money up over equal ways, which will be fair for everybody.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion by Bill to split this exactly 4 ways, second by Gerald. And just, again, to make sure you guys know, splitting it 4 equal ways, this is how much each utility will get. $1,104,848.95 or 94 cents, okay? So that's how much they will get, essentially $1.1 million, okay? We have a motion on the floor and a second. Do we have any other discussion before we vote, please? None? All right, please vote. Motion failed. All right, back to the drawing board. Do we have any other suggestions?
Make a vote on the resolution.
We have to have amounts for the resolution, though. We have to have specific amounts.
I guess we just let it go on.
Well, here's the thing, folks. If this isn't approved, we lose $4.4 million.
Oh, you're going to approve?
So I think that would be a travesty, just to be quite honest. So we need to figure this out.
What was the first vote? What was
The first motion, it was,
I mean, I know the first motion, but what was the vote on? So,
maybe you leave that.
It was 87.
87.
Then we
This
had-
one was-
That one was 6 to. It was 6 to 9.
And there's a motion on the floor. My apologies. Danny, go ahead with your motion, sir.
Make a motion to give the city of Maryville $400,000 and that rest of it up.
Okay, motion on the floor to give the city of Manorville $400,000, the remaining be split evenly between the other 3. So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second for this? Do we have a second? Last call, do we have a second? All right, motion failed.
Can you ask if anybody would like to change their motion, a motion to reconsider on the first motion?
Andy, can we do that? Well, Lady Myers, can we do that?
If you do before we adjourn tonight, yeah.
Say that again.
You do it before we adjourn tonight.
Okay. So, Sydney, what are you proposing? Do you want?
I'm just throwing that out there if anybody has
Gotcha,
changed their
okay,
mind.
okay.
If they want to, they have that opportunity.
To change their mind on their vote.
A motion to reconsider and then.
Gotcha, okay. Gotcha. All right. What else we got, folks?
Well, I can't make the same motion again, Ken.
What was the vote on the last?
Okay, if you all are thinking about going back to the first one, like where they took the 225 off,
Yeah.
say you're gonna take $224,999, and that's a new vote. I mean, you can do that if you want to, or give them a penny more, you can do that.
I make that motion. I make that motion.
Well, we can say this, it's like Sydney said, if someone has, if they wanna change their mind on that first motion, or that first vote, we can do that, if somebody wants to do that.
Can you pull that back up and let people see how it voted?
I can. That is the original first motion.
And this was to minus 225 away from Maynardville and split everything else equally. Okay?
So the other 3 entities got $75,000 more.
Yes, ma'am, correct. Okay, so what we can do here, if we want to re-vote on this, David, explain again, they can make a motion just to read.
Yes, sir. Somebody voted no would have to change, make the motion.
Okay, so if you voted no and want to change it to yes, you can make a motion to do so, is that correct?
Do currently have a motion, Mr. Lake.
I'll pull that motion, see what happens.
Okay, withdrawn, sorry Larry, withdraw that, okay. Does anybody want to change their vote? Anybody want to change their vote? I'm sorry, go ahead,
I
Sidney.
didn't touch nothing.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah, amen, I want to do it, okay? Anybody want to change before we move on? Last call, anybody want to change their vote? Last call, moving on. All right, what else do we have? Go ahead, Sidney.
I'll make a motion to give the city of Maynardville $880,000 even and divide the rest of the remaining money up between the other three.
We have a motion on the floor to give the city $880,000. The rest be divided equally among the other three, and a second from Cheryl Walker. Any questions on this before we vote? Any questions? All right, please vote. Motion passed. All right, so now what we need to do, Mitch and Tim, to make sure we're doing this correctly, we need to make a resolution for the city of Maynardville and the city of Leadville, is that correct, for those amounts? Okay?
Yes, specific language that was in the draft resolutions that were sent over.
Okay.
So everyone has reviewed those. And I have copies.
It's fine, we will approve the amounts, and then I'll give the county clerk to sign the resolution, is that okay? Okay, so good, you good? Okay, so can you put that up there? If someone now would please make a motion for a resolution for the city of Maynardville to receive that amount of money, which the city said $880,000. I need a motion for someone to do that, please. Okay, the city makes a motion. Do I have a second on that? A second by Cheryl. And again, this is the resolution to award the city of Maynardville $880,000 out of TDEC ARPA. And I will sign the resolution if approved. So at this time, any questions on that before we move on? All right, please vote. Motion carried. Okay, the second resolution we need is for the city of Luttrell. So we need an amount on that. We have, Tim, do you have?
Not cut here.
So that would be, let's see. Just a second. Cheryl, where are you when I need you? You got my hand?
Yeah, I was writing this down, sorry.
All right, folks, let me get an exact amount. Give me 1 second.
$1,179,798.6.
Boom, I got it. Okay, let me put it in. Okay, give me 1 second. I want to show everybody the amounts, so everybody understands. I'm off by 1 cent, but we'll fix that, okay? So, we've already given Maynardville $880,000. This will give the city of Luttrell and the other two utilities $1,179,798.60. Okay? So that is the resolution that's on the floor. Do we have any questions? We have a motion and a second. If not, let me switch back over and please vote. Motion carried. All right, folks, so we now have determined, David, let me ask you this, or I mentioned Tim, do we need to do anything for the other two utilities? Does that need to be a resolution? It's okay, we're good to go?
Yeah, you're good.
Good to go, all right, perfect. Okay, all right, folks, we have approved TDEC, ARPA, it's done, we've approved, great, moving on. Now we're on to the second allocation of ARPA, and let me pull that up, give me just a second.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
We'll take 5 for this person.
You can, absolutely. It will take, let's do a 5-minute break real quick, folks. Okay, just let's recap a few things before we go on. If you guys will notice the screen, and commissioners, of course, you guys have this, I've not changed anything. All right, so the American Rescue Plan, just to go back a little bit, now keep in mind, this ARPA allocation is different from the one you just approved. That one's approved, we're moving on. This is the ARPA plan that, as you guys know, we've been looking at almost for 2 years now. And the veteran commissioners, you guys know, we've been going through this list, going through it, we presented it several times and went from there. So, I've changed it up a little bit on this screen, just to make it a little bit easier to look at. So for instance, right here, folks, is the allocation of what we call the priority list. Now, I do want to point out, Maynard Utilities, right here, the 200, and I have 250, I'm going to change that right now. My apologies, that was 225,000, okay? So you know that you can see that changes the allocation down here a little bit, okay? So that was 225. All of that was approved in a separate resolution at a county commission meeting. That's the one that Amy showed me just a second ago. As far as the priorities go, what we had to do, again, is come up with a list that I submitted to Mitch and Tim, which they in turn submitted to the state to get approval on everything. When the approvals come back, everything that you see on this page and on the other page that I gave you guys, the simple budget there, had every single item that we submitted and we got approved. So again, I'll say this, you guys saw that I submitted $5 million worth of projects. I did that just to get as many things in there for them to approve as possible. Then we go through and figure out what we want to do, okay? So the priority list, again, that was as my authority as the mayor when this money came out. They said, okay, what are your top priorities? Here are the top priorities. Whatever's left on that, we have to figure out what to do, okay? So you guys can see Maynard Utilities, we've already paid them. Fire and Rescue, they're working on that right now to get all that together. Everything else looks to be in order here. I do want to say that I checked on the poll pads. Again, that was a priority for the election. The election commission did vote to keep those or to get those, so that's why that money is in there as well, okay? So, when we go down to this part, now let me make sure that everybody understands this, okay? For instance, you see all these 7 things listed here, okay? These are the ones that I put in for approval. That does not mean we have to do them, okay? This is just what was approved. We don't have to do these, okay? For instance, if you've got almost $1 million left, we have $945,000 left. If, for instance, you wanted to, you could put the whole remaining amount in employee bonuses. You could put the whole remaining amount for the local sports complex. You can put it anywhere you want. You can change these amounts. Employee bonuses, I believe I had budgeted $500,000. You can change that if you want to, okay? These things can be changed around, the money, okay? So keep that in mind, that those can be changed around. Now, in a second, I'm going to, with all the questions, Mitch and Tim have dealt with this day in and day out. They're probably going to know the answers. But that's where we are, folks. So we have already allocated the first 7. So these are the last 7. So this is what we need to figure out what to do, okay? What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Danny, go ahead. I was on the wrong screen.
Go back up to 1 there.
Do a what? Okay.
Broadband, is that Big Ridge and Speedwell now? Does KB out of that? Or
This, well, what we had to do, Danny, was we took an amount and just called it broadband to go towards whatever grant that we see necessary, essentially, which one that we want to put it toward. So that's $2 million. Now keep in mind, well, what if we don't get that grant? Or what if something happens, that's $2 million that we can put somewhere else. So that, yes, sir, to answer your question in so many words, yes, that's correct.
We've already budgeted for Scott County to do 13 and Big Ridge.
No, sir, that would be this allocation, yes. That would be the matches for that, yes.
Well, what about, I got a question on EMS. I talked to Andrew, and that's for 4, and he needs 8. If we add 4 more to
You can.
Mr.
Yes, sir,
Road,
you can do that.
I really think that ought to be.
what?
It's the compression system that you see on there, all of the ambulances now, by order of the state, have to have a compression system on them. Andrew came to me with this, and like Larry said, this is to do half of his fleet, $62,000 to put those in. And again, folks, when something is mandated for EMS, we gotta do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. So it either we figure out the money to do it, or it comes out of the EMS's budget. So yes, sir, to answer your question, it's required, and that's why.
So that's gonna be half of what he needs.
Yes, ma'am, that's half.
How many animals was go that?
Andrew's not here, is he?
I believe it's gonna be 8.
I think it's 8. I'm almost sure, positive we have 8, yes. Now, keep in mind, we have three on duty all the time, unless we have a shortage, but it's three on.
I'm gonna make a motion to put the rest of the money in there, put them on it. Because he's gotta have them.
Yes, sir.
I mean, the state is making him mandated.
Yeah.
What's that 62 for? How many?
That's 4.
That's for 4. So we need to double that.
124,000.
So basically, we need to pay for it out of this grant money, or we can pay for it out of the property taxes.
You got it.
Yeah.
It would come out, of course, Andrew's allocated, yeah, all fund balance, yes, sir, you're exactly right.
Going back to the broadband, so that does not include KUB.
Here's why we had to do that. When we put this money in, we had to put, like, let me show you the original one. For instance, the spending plan here, you can see that I had Big Ridge and Speedwell at $1 million each, Knoxville Utility Board at $2 million because they serve a bigger area. Basically, what I did, Cheryl, was squeeze it down half to $2 million and just say broadband. Simply, that's what we do. Now, KUB, more than likely, is not going to come after the money because they're going to run it anyway. So the other 2 places, that's where the money, that's where we need to go. And we decide where that goes on those grants. We can decide that. This is just to put that money aside, $2 million, to match the grant if we need to.
So do we need to allocate money to KUB?
We don't have to allocate specific as long as we have that amount there. Is that correct? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you don't have to allocate. The biggest thing is that you just guys come down and say, on all these items, like you just mentioned on the EMS, we want to increase that by, to 124,000. And you finally get down to the bottom where you say, okay, you got 0 money left. So that allows us to actually get with each department and get with finance, because there's some things that'll have to be bid out. Some things we can do by quote, that kind of stuff. That allows us to go ahead and start ordering all this equipment. But until you guys tell us, how much we're spending on each area, that's what we're.
And let me bring this up too, and Amy just handed me this on. There was a resolution passed by the commission, and this was back March of 22. The resolution reads, let's see, hereby commits to an expenditure of up to $2 million from funds received from ARPA to bring broadband internet to Union County. So it's not specified for where it goes to. It's just $2 million to use to get broadband here, okay? And that's why we worded it that way too.
But we can specify that, Mayor.
What's that, sir?
We can specify that.
Yeah, when the grants come through, absolutely, we can. Yes,
I
sir.
think we need to hedge that and protect the Big Ridge area and other places that where KUB's not at, because KUB's gonna run it regardless of whether we give them a dime or not.
Oh, yeah, they're right.
So they have said they're gonna run it?
Yes, ma'am, they're gonna run it.
Well, they've already been on my road, but I didn't know that was something.
They do, and what they do, KUB, of course, has applied for grant money to do this too. They were gonna do it regardless, but they applied for grants, so they might reach out and say, hey, can we help you? We say yay or nay, and move on, because it's gonna be ran regardless, okay?
Well, once we vote on this, that the next section, where we've got choices.
Yeah.
Can it be changed after that? Or is it set in stone?
Like the allocations be
Yeah,
changed?
allocation, yeah. Can we move it to?
You'd have to revote again to reallocate that money in a future date if it didn't already spent. So would you kind of vote?
Yeah.
You kind of need to stick with that.
Here, let me ask this, and for instance, if they vote on stuff, okay, we do it, we have, $500,000 left, they can come back and vote to reallocate that to another project, is that correct?
You don't do this all tonight, you can,
Oh,
take time to think a little more about this if you want.
We're
Because
just
this
allocating.
money's already here, so we're not, this part of the money, we're not even having to
You're not
apply.
applying.
We're not applying to nobody. We're just gonna, you guys are gonna say, here's how I want to spin out. Then we're gonna start getting quotes and bids, and we may come in, hopefully, that the bids, well, gosh, that, we thought it was gonna be 124,000, but we got a good bid at 101,000.
Right.
That's 30,000, and you guys can come back and say, oh, okay, now we got 30,000 more.
The only stipulation is that you can't just spend the money just at will on anything. Like, that's why we submitted to the state a list of projects ready for approval, saying that these meet the federal guidelines for how this money can be used for certain types of projects. So that's, everything you see on the screen has been approved by the state, and the state of Tennessee hired an independent contractor to do their own review and issue a report, which Union County received to give us an approval from a third party saying these are all eligible expenses.
And that's why we do that, because if we have the backing of the state saying that they approve this, the state can not come back on us later and say you misused your ARPA funds. So that's why we do that submission and everything.
Was it we fall under any deadlines? If we come up and we get that for $100,000?
Well, there are, we have to 2025 to spend this money, so it has to be all allocated.
Are we gonna vote on these one at a time, or are we just gonna change them and vote on them all at once?
He said he had a little more time to think about it and do it later. He said we done, you said we done all we had to do now.
But
No, we gotta prove it.
well, and here's the thing, as I said before, guys, sorry, my laptop's going dead, thank you, John. Like I said before, it's been 2.5 years that we've been dealing with this money, and we need to spend it, that's what it was there for. So, if there's things that you guys don't want to spend or want to add, here's the problem with that. We've already submitted for this year, we have to wait until next year to resubmit, is that correct, Tim?
That's correct.
So that's putting all this off yet another year. So, and again, new commissioners, I know that some of these you're new at or whatever, but veteran commissioners, remember, we've looked at this list 100 times, literally. We've looked at it. So that's where we are. Again, it's up to you guys, but I mean, we've had this money, we need to spend it, that's what it was for.
I'm gonna make a,
We just don't know what we are, we don't know if we're gonna be able to even use it for that.
What do you mean,
Like,
though?
$1 million of big reasons, people.
But you've got the
what that's
money.
gonna cost. I mean,
We don't, but you've got the money there, and we can say, we're gonna spend up to $2 million, and anything over that, we're sorry, that's all we've got to offer.
But if we voted tonight, we can still change it down the road, can't we?
If, like he said, if he comes back and he says we have money left over from where it doesn't cost $1 million, and we've got money left over, then that money comes back and we can allocate that for something else.
Something else on the approved list.
On the approved list, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, I had Larry as a motion.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Mr.
it
Lake.
didn't show like, I'm gonna make a motion to give ambulance service $124,000.
Okay. So your motion is to change the allocation to the ambulance service to $124,000, is that correct? And Greg, you second that? Okay. I'll say it one more time, this is on your allocation, guys, you see it, changing $62,000 to $124,000 for EMS compression systems. Any questions on that? All right, please vote. Motion carried, thank you. Okay, there's one. So we have that one, which that is essentially mentioned in, that was changing the allocation within the priorities.
Yeah.
So we still have, got the priorities laid, okay. All right, so, and again, there's been questions about employee bonuses. I know that's come up a lot. Mitch and Tim can speak to that too. Keep in mind, if that's something you want to do and you don't want like that amount, we can change the amount. If you don't want to do them, we don't do them. You see what I'm saying? There's different ways we can move this money around. And as I said before, we're changing that allocation. Let me change this one. Hold on one second. I changed the EMS to $124,000. That leaves commission roughly $880,000 left. And we have a motion by Greg. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion on the bonuses, to give first responders, anybody that worked here from January 2020 to present, worked us through COVID, done everything and gave all for us through COVID, that we would give them a total of $325,000. And that will cover, and I've got a list of, there's 55 employees, if I did correctly, that's give or take a couple, that would cover in that.
Okay, when you say first responders, how are you
That's
defining?
sheriff's department, jailers, and EMS.
Okay.
Is how, that's the first responders that I broke that down.
All right, we've got a motion, we have a second. Before we vote on this, bonuses get a little tricky, so let's come up, or Tim, come on up.
So I will explain,
Do what it is.
Or a cap on those bonuses.
It was 25,000. It was 25,000 to an individual. Go ahead, Tim.
so if you choose to go the direction of some bonuses, it gets extremely complicated. It's gonna create a lot more work for you as a body. Also the dates specifically, you mentioned 2020, I heard you say that. This funding can only be used for projects or services April 2021 and after. So anything prior to that, you can't pay for it. So you're gonna have to, in order to do that, and I heard you say, essential.
Essential workers,
So
yes.
as a body, they're gonna have to come up with a definition of essential services and determine what is an essential service and what is it for
Okay, and how much is he saying he's giving for a bonus?
Greg, how much was the total amount you said?
325.
325,000 divided by
I
how
got
many workers?
59, is it 59?
Library worked.
I got 55, Cheryl, but they could be 59. I may have missed that by 4.
Oh, you said 325 to 55 employees?
Yes.
Okay.
What would that be, bonus? How much?
That's almost $6,000 a person. 59.
Well, ain't all employees essential?
That's up to you all to define essential.
So we ask them what their opinion is, because, I mean, they work with this. What's your all's opinion? Not to put you on the spot.
Well, we've been talking, for us personally, I think, we have, we got the electoral sports part, and we've got to match it, 50% match. So we got $1 million, we got to match it with 500,000. And I think Mayor had said that was set aside.
Yes, we have that, we have the matching capital, yes, sir.
If you cut that $500,000 set aside in capital and say, okay, we're going to put that, we're going to make that this money right here, then you could do those bonuses, and however you wanted to do it, you wouldn't have to follow under anybody else's guidelines.
Are you saying that if we took the bonus out of capital, is that correct, out of our fund?
Out of your fund, but you still need to match that electoral sports part.
Sure.
So that 500,000 you had set in capital, if you say, okay, we're going to take, under the American Rescue Plan, we're going to put $500,000 to the electoral sports part, that'll provide that match. Then that other 500,000 that you had in capital, then you could use it for bonuses, and you wouldn't even have to worry about any of those guidelines we're talking about. That would be a lot simpler. The only requirement would be from finance, as long as, finance is good with that. If,
So just make sure I'm right here. So okay, say we did that, you got your 500 in capital. So the commission can decide where that money, where our money, capital money goes to, what
Yeah.
employees it goes to, how much it goes to.
Yes.
Are we audited or anything separately on, I'm just asking.
you would be audited just like you normally would be audited.
But there's no restrictions on, we don't have to have resolutions saying, blah, blah, who.
Yeah, it would just be like if he's getting pay raises, but, basically.
But a simpler solution, and what I would suggest is that you choose to not use any of this funding for any sort of bonuses, because you're opening the door again to, it's gonna be significant work, so you couldn't necessarily even vote on this tonight, you need to table it. So we could go back and you're gonna have to, as a body, come up with a definition of an essential worker, so that if someone said 55, it may not end up being 55 people, it may be less, it could be more. But you'll have to come up with what is an essential worker, and then we're gonna have to get an opinion from someone saying, okay, that is allowable. You're creating a significant amount of work.
And we're going to have an exact list of employees too.
And you're gonna have that, and then records of payroll from the specific dates going forward.
Yeah, you got to follow that.
The amount of record keeping for that is significantly more than buying something or building something, doing physical things with the money.
Can we designate tonight, you say you need to have this designated to 500,000 and vote on it just later for essential workers or bonuses?
Oh, yeah, you can set it aside right now. You can say, that we want to keep that 500,000 in there, but we need to talk about it and get it all worked out. Yeah, you definitely can. We don't have to say yes or no tonight on that.
You can still
We set
allocate.
aside that, yeah.
You can allocate other funds to other projects as well.
Yeah, so on that one's good, and on those other ones, if we just want to go down that list and say, yeah, I agree with those amounts, then we can get those other ones started, and go ahead and get some of that equipment working. But yeah, you definitely can do that on that one. So right now, we need to find out exactly all the wording we need to put in and all that, so.
We have a motion and a second on the floor, though, before we thank you, Mitch, and thank you, everybody. So Greg, your motion still stands? You wanna withdraw? Do you wanna vote on that, or?
If we can hold that 500 to a later date, then if the board wants to talk about that, but I would like to see first responders to get their due diligence.
Sure.
And if we don't use that much, we can use that money.
Let me ask you, would you like to change your motion and change it to that we do put that 500,000 aside?
I would.
Okay, so make sure, don't put words in your mouth, Greg, but the motion would be to set aside the $500,000 to get a definition of essential workers and go from there. Is that still okay? Okay. Angela, you seconded his first motion. Do you want to second this one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion by Greg, second by Angela. You guys heard the motion? That is to
Let's
set.
talk about the $500,000 in capital projects for the local map.
No, sir, he's talking about keep 500,000 with the ARPA money, just set aside until we decide who gets it.
We can do that later.
And we won't lose it, so we can do that part later, we're just setting aside.
And we still have to
Exactly.
decide.
Yeah.
who those people are.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you may.
But the other thing about this, we're gonna set that aside, but just like the buildings, the community centers, there's 2 on here, and then the solid waste building. And especially going to those community centers, we said, I thought last month they're gonna probably cost more than $125,000. So when you set that aside specifically for that, is the county willing to pick up the rest of the money for if those buildings cost more, the land and the building cost more?
We would just have to look at capital projects and see what commission wants to do. And honestly, Cheryl, that's the reason I put those in this, because the main thing with ARPA is, when we look down the road 20 years from now and we say, we got all these millions of dollars, what do we do with it? Are we gonna be able to look and see, we put this community center here, this one here, we did this, we did that, what did we do with our money? We've heard through the grapevine, and Michigan attests to this, audit telling us some counties are just wasting money. And that's why when we look at this, I would like to have something something there that we put there. So that's why I did that, yes ma'am. But, okay, motion on the floor in a second. This is to set aside in ARPA $500,000 in employee bonuses, and we will determine who is essential. Sound good? All right, please vote. Motion carried. Thank you very much. All right, so take 500,000 out of that, so that will be 5, 6, 7, 8, $383,000 we have left. So, let me pull this up again, folks. All right, so $500,000 for employee bonuses, and again, we have about $383,000 left. Here.
I'd like to make a motion to do the community centers for Big Ridge and Speedwell. We're the only 2 that doesn't have a community center.
Yes, ma'am, and would you like to put an amount with that on?
Right now, we have 125,000 listed for the employees.
Okay. The motion is to allocate 125,000 to both Big Ridge and Speedwell community centers.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but we got 300 and what, did you say, wait, it's being 380?
383. Angela, go ahead and speak, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I was just gonna ask if we could discuss the amount, because, when you think about inflation right now, for the purchase of the property and the build, you're not gonna be able to build a building for $125,000. If you consider the current community centers that we have, and what that would take to build those currently.
I think those are going to be like, they're going to get Clayton's to that really. I don't know.
Crazy about that idea. I like them the way they are. House trailers are high, getting into.
Did you say like Clayton's?
Isn't that what we discussed?
Well, here's kind of how that happened too. And Angela, I know you weren't here then, but we originally wanted to put one in Speedwell in the 13th because they have nothing. They have that little building over there. the original idea there was to try to get some type of mobile modular unit because the 13th is so small, to put one over there because they don't need a huge one. And then we kind of looked at doing that for Big Ridge as well. So that's kind of where that came from. So that, it's not set in stone, but
Maybe we look at doing less for Speedwell, more for Big Ridge, because we
We
know
can
if
do that,
we're gonna
sure.
build a permanent building, it's gonna cost a
The
lot.
problem with bigger is if you get any land worth anything, it's gonna cost you $50,000-$60,000.
yeah.
And I'd rather sit there and get a good lot if it takes another 10 years to build a thing, just get a good lot.
Sure.
Well, I know we have money allocated to
Yeah,
it.
right, I'd say at least 200,000 instead of 125 would be mine.
Maybe that's after that, we do what would you recommend for Speedwell then?
Well, Speedwell, I think they deserve an even share of that for that we've abandoned them for years and years. But not only do they need a building, but they need a convenience center, so we could possibly do both of those on the same spot.
And see, that was the plan too, for solid waste. We had talked about maybe doing a small one and
Like what we do on Cedar Grove there. Would at least like to have that money allocated for.
Right, maybe allocate something.
Yes, and half and half, take the rest of it out, somebody else on that board that's, you know, had some other options other than what's on the board, it might be different. I say split that in three, those two, what's that?
And Dawn, I mean, what you could do, if you want to allocate the remaining for that,
For those two.
we can do that.
And we can always,
What's that?
Allocate.
What we can do is we can put exact amounts here to make it all even out, and then we just know that we'll go down the list, and whatever's left, we can put to that.
So we know we want to do more than
We can bump it up. Right now, you can see right now, we're putting 500,000 in bonuses, 125, 125, that puts us at 750,000. So we have another, what, $120,000 that we can add to that if you want to, and make that the remaining.
You lost me, how much did it change?
We have left about 123,000.
Left over.
133,000, my
Out of
apologies.
125 each.
That's correct. That's with doing 125, we have that left over. What we could do is put all the remaining monies toward those. We do that.
Yeah, we spent too much before we got there.
Can I ask a question? If we've allocated $500,000 to employee bonuses, but that does not mean we have to spend.
You are correct.
$500,000.
so we can take more out of that.
We allocate that excess or surplus at
You
the
just said-
appropriate time.
Yes, sir, you can do that. Leon, I'm sorry, Leon, go ahead.
RL, you want to say something about solid waste? Go ahead. We had a meeting about that solid waste meeting, and our contract's going to end pretty quick. And it's going to be estimated 750,000 a year we're going to come up with somehow or another. We've got a little bit on here, I think, for a building.
We do. Yes,
And
sir.
if we can, or move money around, have a little bit more to that, to look toward doing something with that. That's what we leave when it is.
How about-
Let me, Tim, don't you work with the solid waste authority too?
Yeah.
Can you, okay, what we put on here was the building,
A building here.
so is that,
If we get allocated for that.
What they got now is basically a house trailer at their office. They say it's just pretty much rotted down, neglect and whatever over years.
yeah,
It's just, basically, it's not worth fixing. I'm not gonna look at it, to be honest. They were thinking about another small house trailer, basically what they were talking about, or build a small office building.
right.
40,000 there again, 40,000 ain't gonna come close, either direction you go.
For what, the solid waste building? That's up to you.
We can't take the money left over and put on
You
solid
got a
waste.
motion on the floor to say it.
So we have to decide.
You gotta say what you got left.
Well, if we add 125 to one of those community centers, that gives them, what? You know, I think 250, with 75, that'd be 150, and that would still leave us 150 from 383. Oh, we're down to 33 now.
150,000, that would leave us $83,000.
$50,000 gonna do what we need, buy the property and build it?
Honestly, I just simple, I don't know.
No, I meant 200,000. We had 75 each one
Oh,
of those.
200 for each.
Yeah, 200 for
I'm
each.
sorry.
And so that would make it, that's 150,000, because it's, with the up, it'll be 75,000.
We went over a little bit, but here's the thing, we can allocate this because we know the money's gonna shift, is that correct? And just say, here's what we're gonna do, I mean.
Yeah, the money's there, you don't have to spend it.
And this is a start, at least we kind of know where we're looking at and what we got. It's a start to work with things, so we have some left over that we can allocate.
You don't actually have to, is this $883,000, you don't actually have to spend that on any of these things if you don't want to. We're gonna wait till next calendar year and resubmit an entirely new list of projects to come up with.
Sure. But again, that's another year. So,
Well, if we're gonna build a building, we have to get, sit that out for 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
We do once we
So
start,
that's
yes,
gonna
ma'am.
take some time.
Yeah, we do that.
Okay, so my motion is gonna be, we do 200,000 each for the community center, the Speedwell Community Center. We have left over, then we might add to that, because we know that's probably not gonna get what we need. This depends on what the property is and how much the building costs.
You got it. All right, so just to make sure, we go back to this screen. Dawn has a motion on the floor. She has asked to change her motion, which will be that we give $200,000 to Big Ridge Community Center, $200,000 to Speedwell Community Center. Okay, that's the motion. We had a second by Danny. Are you still okay with that, Danny?
Yeah.
And before we vote, let's see, Bill has asked to speak. Go ahead, Bill, I'm sorry.
How does that one?
Oh, yeah, okay. I thought you were getting ready to jump in, Bill. I didn't know what was going on. Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. If not any more questions, please vote. Motion carried. All right, folks, we have allocated all of our money. Is that correct, Phyllis? All right, so the big thing right now is we're just going to have to figure out who is essential, who is not, and then we figure out if that's what we want to spend. Yes, sir.
At the end of that, or the another installment comes?
That's the end. That's everything. And yes, and I'm glad Danny brought that up. So this allocation comes in 2 allocations. We got half of it last year, we got the other half this year. What you just voted on the budget is the whole amount, okay? So we're done with ARPA. We will come back, obviously, with the bonuses and all this to kind of see where we are to reallocate money, okay? So thank you all. I think this is a good list. I really do.
Yeah, we give the hard departments too.
Yes, sir. All right, fire department's got $300,000, $50,000 each. And they just about ordered everything they need, right? We're getting there.
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic, all right. Ms. Ken, we've done what we need to do, is that correct?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right, folks, motion by Cindy to adjourn, second by Cheryl, please vote. Thank you, folks. Oh, one more thing before we go, hold on. If you are on the financial management committee, keep in mind, budget committee is different from my financial management. If you were on financial management, we had to move that meeting. That will be the 25th of this month. Commission is on the 24th, it's the next day. Again, financial management, okay, budget committee, same day, okay?
One more thing.
Yes.
Janet had asked me to take over the flower fund, so, if everybody would, if you want to, donate $20 to the flower fund, and that's something happens to one of the commissioners, then
Did we have any later?
we have like $40 left over.
Can we allocate that for everybody's got already?
So if you want to bring your money to the committee today, or.
And this money does not go into the county. All right. Meeting adjourned, thanks, folks.
Hey,